Good morning, students. How are you? Hope you are staying safe at your home. So, in the previous video session, we have discussed about the four components or the four dimensions of the macro environment or four dimensions of business environment. So, today we will start with the another fifth dimension, and the last dimension of business environment is what we call it as a legal environment. Legal environment refers to the sum total of all the acts passed by the government, judgment of courts and decisions rendered by the various commissions and agencies. यानी कि अगर कोई भी कानून पास होता है या कोई भी वी कैन से जजमेंट आती है कोर्ट की तरफ जिससे हमारा बिजनेस इफेक्ट होता है तो दैट व्हाट वी कॉल इट एज अ लीगल इन्वायरमेंट. It is imperative for the management for every enterprises to obey the law of land. An adequate knowledge of rules and regulations framed by the government is a prerequisite for better business performance. Business must scan it regularly. So it is very essential for a businessman to know about what changes taking place in the business environment. Next one comes the component of legal environment. The Companies Act 2013, Industrial Development and Regulations Act 1951, Foreign Exchange Management Act and the Imports and Exports Control Act 1947, Factories Act 1948, Trade Union Act 1926, Workmen's Compensation Act 1923, Industrial Disputes Act 1947, Consumer Protection Act 2019 and Competition Act 2002. So all these are the components of the legal environment which are directly or indirectly affecting our business. So what will be the impact of legal environment on the business? The following regulations are required to be followed by the advertisers. The advertisement of alcoholic beverages prohibited. सो जो एल्कोहल की ऐड आती है वो कभी भी क्या है डायरेक्ट नहीं आती है, दैट इज़ ऑलवेज इनडायरेक्ट थ्रू द म्यूजिक सीडीज और एनी अदर बार्स. एडवर्टाइजमेंट इंक्लूडिंग पैकेट्स ऑफ सिगरेट कैरी द स्टैट्यूटरी वार्निंग सिगरेट स्मोकिंग इज इंजरियस टू हेल्थ. तो यानी कि कोई भी जो है दैट इज़ लाइक तंबाकू है या सिगरेट है तो उसके ऊपर जो भी उसकी ऐड आती है तो पहले उसका वो एक वी कैन से डेमो वर्जन दिखाते हैं कि अगर आप इस चीज़ को कंज्यूम करोगे तो इट विल कॉज अ कैंसर. It can cause a mouth cancer or it can cause a lungs cancer. So such kind of we can say that components includes in the legal environment. Baby food must necessarily inform the potential buyer that mother's milk is the best. There are number of baby products are coming in the business like Nestle Nano, Cerelac and all these things. तो उसमें भी क्या होता है कि mother's milk is the best. No doubt, though that supplement is also best, but it has statutory warning. It has a they are informing the potential buyers that mother milk is the best. So all these form the legal environment. Now comes economic reforms since 1991. To take the country out of economic difficulties and to speed up the pace of economic development, the following vital reforms were introduced. So in the year 1991, there was major economic reforms known as LPG policy, liberalization, privatization and globalization. So before 1991, there was a quota system. There was lot many restrictions on export and import of goods and services. There was many restrictions on producing the goods and services. Nationalization was given the priority. Public sector was to play a major role at that time. And we are not doing the trade with any of the country. So in the year 1990 the Indian economy come into the economic crisis which leads to the economic reforms means changes. So we have to establish or we have to introduce the economic reforms, that is liberalization, privatization and globalization. So let's see what these components were. Liberalization refers to unshackle economy from bureaucratic cobweb to make it more competitive. The main aim is to abolish license permit, that is quota raj. At that time where there was licensing system, that if you have to establish any business you have to take the license. So under liberalization we have abolished that system. We have abolished the licensing system in the liberalization. It includes abolishing licensing requirement in most of the industries except a short list. Freedom in deciding the scale of business activities. No restrictions on expansion and contraction of business activities. Removal of restrictions on the movement of goods and services. freedom in fixing price of goods and services, reduction in tax rates and lifting of unnecessary controls over the economy, simplifying the procedure for imports and exports, making it easy to attract foreign capital and technology in India. So liberalization was to, we can say that, to make the economy more competitive. Unnecessarily restrictions were removed, unnecessarily regulations were removed. The licensing system, earlier if you have to expand your business or contract your business, you have to take the permission from the government. So all those things were abolished in the liberalization. Next come privatization. Privatization means giving more importance to the private sector instead of the public sector. An economic process through which some public sector undertaking is brought either partially or completely under the private ownership through disinvestment. So disinvestment is basically the policy, or disinvestment is the basically the process through which we can say that we are selling the shares of public sector to the private sector. So privatization means giving greater role to the private sector, redefining the role of public sector in the new industrial policy of 1991. We have to give more importance to the privatization instead of the public sector. Then deciding to refer the loss making and sick units to the Board of Industrial and Financial Reconstruction, that is BIFR. So it was decided that the public enterprises which were loss making and sick units, they are to be handed over to the BIFR. BIFR is Board of Industrial and Financial Reconstruction. Next come the globalization. Globalization is what? It refers to integrating the economy with the rest of the world. It is refers to integrating the economy with the rest of the world, so that we have to provide them platform. We have to provide them platform where all the countries can come forward and do the business. So it includes free flow of goods and services across the nations, free flow of capital across the nations, free flow of information and technology across the nations, free flow of people across the borders, a common acceptable mechanism for the settlement of disputes, a global governance perspective. So globalization promotes the peace among all the nations. So that is, globalization means we have to do the trade with the other nations without many restrictions. So these were the three major economic reforms which were introduced in the year 1991. So students, please watch this video very carefully, and if you have any query, please note down in your notebook, and I will sort down in your tomorrow's Google Meet session. Thanks and have a nice day.